Okay, so a little update on the Corvette. I've got all the parts, almost all the parts, ready for sandblasting. A little bit of scraping, keep everything in order so I don't forget where to put it. And we'll be ready to start painting here pretty soon. At which point, well, then we start putting all the bushings in and mounting it back up to the frame. Which today I'm going to work on the lower control arm mounts. I've been giving it some thought. Near as I can figure, those bent plates, they're there for, well, two reasons. A little bit of reinforcement and protection. I mean, they're just protecting the mounts themselves, the rods, the shafts, which one's bent. I noticed in disassembly. One's bent. I'm going to bend it back. And then I'm going to modify the way it mounts. It's not going to be factory, but that's okay. It's my car. I'll make it the way I feel it ought to be. It's going to be safe. It's going to be effective. And they're both going to be on the same plane. Right now, I don't know if you can see through this picture, one side's higher than the other. And actually, in this, it works out either way, but lower than the other, higher than the other, however you want to put it. They're not equal. So all that's going to get addressed today. Anyways, more to come. All right. So I've cleaned off the old mounts, cleaned everything up. I still have to straighten it up a little bit because a little bit of dent damage from prior, from trying to get the mounts off. I took off the gussets on this side, and in doing so, yeah, I don't know if you can see it or not, but right here, it looks like it's cracked. The gusset itself was cracked, so I'm gonna have to re-support that, repair that before I put new gussets on. But that's where we're at right now on the frame, is I've got all that stripped down. And what I've done is I've made a paper template of the repair piece. And I've got a 10 gauge, like 120 wall, 120 thickness plate on the table. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this pattern to the plate, and then I'm going to put some holes in it so I could, and if you look right here, I don't know if you can see it over here, where I didn't like the placement of that hole. That one's okay. That one's actually in the middle, but more so than that one. But these holes here are a little too close to the lip. So I'm going to move those holes over 1/4 inch. I marked a 1/4 inch over on there, and it actually moved everything over a quarter. And then when I'm done tracing it, I'm going to move it back to that line, transcribe those holes, and that should bring everything a quarter inch over. Cut it out. And like I said, I'm going to put some holes in here strategically according to what the frame requires, and then use those as rosette plug welds to the original, and that's going to make it a lot stronger, and we'll go from there. More to come. Okay, so this is the setup I'm going to use to bend those lips. If I can get it in here, let's see, hold on. I'm new at this camera. So that's the setup right there. I've got a 12-ton jack. I believe it's 12-ton. Yep, 12-ton. 12-ton jack sitting on a couple of nice hefty blocks of steel. Transferred my bend lines, a couple of marks on the back side. Now I'm going to take just a 4LB, 4-pound hammer, and tap that lip down to where it's a nice. You'll see when I'm done. I'm not set up in here, but I'll show you the final outcome. It'll turn out really nice, watch. Well, that's one side. That's my instrument of force. And honestly, I mean, anything that I had stored up on top of the press is gone. But all in all, not a horrible. I'm hoping you can see that. It turned out pretty well. I mean, let's face it, this thing's on the dead bottom of the car. Unless you get run over, you're never going to see it. You're not going to, I mean, I'll see it. I'll know it's there. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with that. And I can straighten it out a little bit more once I get it out of there. Anyways, let me do the other side. Alright, so coming out of the press, this is what we got. That still is going to need work. Well, this is a pretty good start, I think. I mean, that definitely took nice shape, nice form. I've got the fronts bolted on. The backs are just kind of dangling yet. Now I still gotta build the gussets for in the back, and that's what's gonna pull the back down. Although I am going to do some additional drilling and some rosette or plug welds, whatever you want to call them, and then tie them back in to the frame. Like I said, the frame right here looks like it's got a nice little crack, so that's got to be addressed as well. Now all these bolt holes on the bottom, those will go through, and that's where I'm going to rosette weld as well to the top and draw it up with the nut certs like I said earlier. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with the outcome of that. I don't know if anybody saw in the previous videos how nasty that was. It's going to come off again once I get it all drilled. And like I said, I got to drill it for the nut certs, and then I got to drill it for the rosette welds. And then put it back together all bolted up nice and tight, and then weld it. And like I said, I don't know about that second lip, the one that goes on the inside. But you know what? I'll probably just go ahead and do it. Maybe I'll make it part of the gusset for the front here, because I'm thinking a 3-piece gusset in the front, so I could blend in the one side, blend in the other side, and then cap it off real nice. And I think that's going to be my best option here. Anyways, Stay tuned. So, a little update on the Vette. I've been working on the repair for the frame. As you can see, I still haven't done the gussets, but I've got the plate pretty well under control. I've got the holes bored, I've got the plate cut, I've got the lips bent. I put nutserts in the 6 holes, and what those are going to do is they're going to draw the plate up snug and tight against the bottom of this plate. So we're going to mate this plate with this plate, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to weld every one of these spots. And once they're all welded, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to drill out the nutserts. And if I have to, I'll heat up the hole and I'll dimple it, just like this center hole right here. I'll dimple it so that it looks planned. Put it that way, planned. And it is planned. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I've got a little bit of effort in this. The plate is working out really well. It did not raise my mounts any because they were on an 1/8 inch plate. Not a very good one. Attached to this engine cradle. So nothing has changed in that manner. However, as bent up as they were, I really didn't have the best of reference for the distance in the back. However, the bolt holes up front existed prior. So assuming that everything's straight, and I mean, that's kind of what I went with, but they landed where they landed. And as soon as I get everything all snugged down, I'm pretty sure they look a lot better right now. And basically all that's going to do is that's going to hold the lower control arm out to a fixed position. All of the alignment basically comes from the top, the upper control arm. So, yeah. Yep, upper control arm. I had to rethink all that. But yeah, this is your base point. It's gonna set the ball joint at a specific distance, and my goal was to get them equal on either side. And that's, you know, with what I have to work with here, this is the best that I can do. And once I get it all welded up, I'm going to come back in. I'm going to drill in 3 spots. I don't think I need anything more over here. Drill in 3 spots on either side, just through the top, or actually this is the bottom plate. And then I'm going to plug weld those. And I'm thinking about putting a little weld on the outside. Do I need those 3 plug welds? Probably not. I mean, I'm going to have so much weld holding this thing on, and the bolts, and everything else. I don't think it's going to need it, but I'm going to do it anyways. And then I'm going to work on the gussets. The gussets, I'm going to extend them all the way up and into here. It'll be kind of an odd looking piece, but it'll do it. And then I'll weld that in right along the seam and into there. I still got to fix that crack. And then all I got left after that is the steering mount. The rack and pinion came with a new mount to replace this one, so I'm going to cut this one off, repair the frame, reestablish the holes, bolt a new piece on. Well, I won't bolt a new piece. I'll have it mocked up, bolted on. But at that point, once I get that fixed, this thing is ready for blasting. And that's going to be done right out there. Yeah, so working on it, and it's making some pretty good progress, I think. I really like the way that plate turned out, and realistically, the frame that's in that Corvette right now, which is the body for this one, the biggest problem with it was that took a hit. So I've got the pattern. I can remake that again and probably repair that frame, and it'll be just as good as this one. So more to come. All right, so here we are with another update on the Corvette. It's Valentine's Day 2026. Here's the patterns that I've already made for the repair of the gussets for the lower control arms. There were some patch panels, the two rectangle-ish pieces that I gotta take and install before I can actually finish up that oddly shaped piece, this one right here, because that's the upper lip on the shaft for the lower control arm. Again, I did have some cracks. The one side I there it is. One side I already addressed in a previous video. Turned out to be a little bit more than what I had anticipated. And then on this side, when I got to looking a little closer, well, it was cracked as well. So I drilled out the ends of the cracks. That'll prevent it from traveling any further. And then those rectangle-ish pieces, those I will weld in place over top. I did weld the bottom of the shaft repair piece right here. I did weld that, and I did weld that, and I did weld the top, although honestly I don't know if anybody's ever had a Corvette before and actually looked at the welds. The welds are pretty much horrible. A lot of cleanup I'm going to do before we put it back together, but I welded this up with stick and it looks pretty much just as horrible. It was not a simple, well, it wasn't as simple as I anticipated, but I will clean that up a little bit before, and if not, I mean, it's not going anywhere. So do I need to? No. Will I? Probably, because that's just what I do. I can't let that go. You get run over by this car, I want you to see good welds. That's all there is to it. Anyways, I'm going to work more on the gussets right now, turn them into metal, get that going, and we'll go from there. Okay, so at this point, I think we've demonstrated enough of my cutting abilities. Also demonstrated my lack of editing quality. So, with that being said, we'll probably fast forward through a lot of that cut. Anyways, these are the, what are these? The inside gussets that I've built here. There's two of them. And what we're going to do is take them over here. First, I want to show you that I did repair those two cracks. I drilled out the holes as you saw in the last video. I made the two plates. These are the rectangular-ish plates. And I've welded them in. So now, that gives me the opportunity to fine-tune my gussets, which which that ones have to be trimmed down a little bit. I made them both the same because, well, they didn't look to be that they were going to be the same. But in the end, they turned out to be pretty much the same. And this one, of course, that's the one I did first. And that duplicates basically what we had before. This one here, there's a little bit of an angular issue with it, but you know what? It's going to be just fine. And when I weld these on, it's going to be very close to factory original. As close as I can, you know, get in my little world here. I will come back in. This is pretty good. The two sides are not symmetrical, so I will end up trimming this right along, make it flush. And then I'm going to use this piece here, the end of it, to basically create the gusset over here. And then, like I said, I'm going to fill in between there and weld it all in. And it'll be just as solid as, well, it'll be more solid than it was. And ultimately, it'll be symmetrical. I did have, I don't know what I did. Oh, I borrowed it for something else. But I had these little plates right here that I'd set up. There's another one there with all the hammering. With all the hammering, they got knocked down. But I got those there. And then my straight edge right here. If I put that up here thusly, when I look at this now, I mean, it was pretty far off left and right, height-wise. Now, as you can see, they're pretty level. So it's got to be better than what it was, no matter what. Like I said, kind of crap welds, but I'll fix them up a little bit. Right now, my good welder turns out to be not so good. Yeah, it's only money. You spend enough to buy the very best, and it comes back to bite you every time. I don't know. Sometimes you're just better off buying the cheap stuff. Other times, not so much, but yeah. Anyhow, I got to make the second portion of these gussets. And then once I get that done, which I'm hoping to have that done this weekend, then I move my ambitions to over here. That's going to be so easy right there. But I stick welded these things because, well, my MIG is down. I've got another MIG, but it's a little guy. I've never used it before, so I'd have to get it all set up and ready to go and everything else. And it's like, by the time I do that, I can have the thing done. So, anyways, that's stick welding. I think it turned out okay. I don't know. Let me know what you think. More to come. So this is where I'm ending the day. I've got everything pretty well tacked together. Seems to be looking a lot better. A lot better than when it started out. I've got the gussets well underway. They're both slightly different. I got a little bit of trimming to do, and I got to finish welding them up. But all in all, I'm pretty happy about how it turned out. I think I made them, for whatever reason, just slightly long. I think I'll have to trim them down in order to get the lower control arm on. I don't know if you can see the bushing relief, or the bushing part of the shaft is actually over top. So I'll just have to get a cutoff wheel and trim those back a little bit, clean them up. And that'll give me a nice smooth transition in the weld too, so I'm not too concerned about that. These, I may or may not clean them up a little bit. I will trim this so it's flush with the bottom, and I'll trim this so it's flush with the bottom. But will I do anything about that? I don't know. I might leave that. I kind of like it. I don't think it's going to get in the way of anything. It does definitely strengthen things up. And it makes it a lot easier to weld that way, so I don't know. I'm thinking it's pretty cool. For me, like I said, I'm only doing this for me. Anyhow, more to come. So this is pretty much where I'm going to leave the front end. I've still got a little bit of work to do. As you can see, I can't because of the sun. The sun is always, the Arizona sun, it's always in your eyes or creating a glare or doing whatever it's got to do to get in your way. Anyhow, I got everything pretty much locked in where it's gonna live. I think it turned out pretty well. I did have to trim these back a little bit because, well, like I said, the shafts were not quite sticking out as far as I wanted to see them. But other than that, everything's all welded in there pretty well. Like I said, stick welding. I wish I could, I would have made them, but you know what? The winds today wouldn't have, I mean, the winds here are not. You want wind? Pick up a welder. Pick up a MIG welder. Pick up a TIG welder. Yeah, then the winds pick up. That's just how it is. So, all in all, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. It's way straighter than it was. Is it perfect? No, probably not. But is it going to work? Better than it did before. I can only imagine how loose the steering was on this thing. Anyhow, I've got the steering portion of it, the mount, cut off and ready to start going back together again. That's next. Well, it's already in progress. But all in all, like I said, things are coming along. Will it be perfect? Will it be a show car? No, probably not. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be one fun ride. And it's going to actually handle pretty well, I think, by the time I get done with it. When I put the rack and pinion on, I guess there's a completely different setup that they want you to have for the alignment, but I haven't really even got that far yet. So, but that's the piece that came off right there, and then that's the replacement piece. And when I get it all tacked together, the repair, I'll take another little video. But yeah, it's going to be way better supported than what it was. Anyways, back to it. This is where we're at with the final repair here for the steering point, the attaching point on the frame. I'm making it out of 3 pieces. You can see the bolt right there. That was a pretty clean hole where the original mounted up. The new piece has the same bolt pattern, 4 holes. This one here, what I've done is I plated all the way up to the back side here, even notched out for this. So now these 2 holes, they're double thickness, okay, which should reinforce that point very well. I've got this plate tacked in, bolted in right now. In addition to that, I'm going to trim the ends just a little bit, and probably right in here I'm going to tack this in. I'm going to form it just a little bit because it's not quite sitting flat, and I want to close this gap up a little bit. Get this all nice and secured in. It'll all be a flat plane all the way over to the edge. And then once I have that established, I'm going to come back in, trim this up just a little bit, and tie all of this in all the way around. This will be a nice weld right here up along the side, because that'll be flush. This will be flush. I'll bevel these out, weld everything in, tie it in all together really well, and it'll all be super strong right at this point. And it'll look pretty much like I'd never touched it. And then I'll be able to come in and bolt this guy up where it needs to be. I've got the original 2 holes. I'll get it close enough, along with the relief taper on, or on the bottom of this. It'll be fine. It'll be strong, a lot stronger than it was. And at that point in time, this frame is almost ready for blasting. So that's where we're at. That is after welding the first plate and the second plate together. Now I'm going to cap it off and I'll show the results after that. And that is final welded. From here, now what I have to do is shape it, make it look like it never happened, and then I'm ready to install the steering. So, if you ask me, it turned out pretty well. I had to build it up high because I will have to grind it down. I want it to be smooth, so got to have something there to grind down. Damn sun has to be right behind me though. And in the end, this is what we end up with. I've got it all drilled out, smoothed out. I did have to take some of the weld on the fillet right here. I had to take some of that out because that hole right there comes so close to the weld. But I'm not worried about it because I welded it in pretty well. And it's going to be sandwiched in with the mount as well. So, but that's how that turned out. And now she's ready for blast. Well, this is it. Ready for blasting. I did go in and repair, re-weld those rosette welds. Still not the highest quality that I want to see, but a little rusty. Like this frame, just a little rusty. Not bad. But she's ready. She is ready for blasting. And the next time you see it, it's probably going to be blasted. Nobody wants to watch that crap. So I'll work on that here in the next week or so. Can't believe the weather we've been having. It's actually got me this far along. I did find my screen. And with that screen, as you can see, there's some rocks in that screen. I've got a pile of silt that I took out of the road back during a storm back in 2014. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that silt, which is just really, really fine sand, and I'm going to run it through that screen. And then, once I have it screened out, I am going to take and run it through my sandblaster and use that to blast the frame. That's my blaster right there. That's the one I'm going to use for, but yeah, I'm going to use just native sand and try that and see how it works. Worst case scenario, yeah, I've got other stuff that I can bring out, but I did spend quite a bit of time. I don't know how well this pans out, but I did spend quite a bit of time getting my machine shop back in order, because let me tell you what, I never had it in order to begin with, but now I've got it pretty much workable. I'm going to need that brake lathe when I go to do the brakes on the Corvette because I'm just going to reuse everything. But all in all, got a pretty nice little variety of tools to use here. That right there, that was my main MIG welder, and that attached to a Trailblazer 325. Without the 325, yeah, this thing doesn't really have much of a purpose because, well, it's not the power source, it's the wire feed only. Nice little unit when it was working, but yeah, I would never go that route again. I spent a whole bunch of money and had a whole lot of problems, and it cost me a whole lot of more money. Yeah, I would definitely go a different route next time. Like I said, I do have a couple of other welders that I picked up. I never used either one of them. I think they probably work just fine, but never. Well, up until just recently, the Miller was working just fine. Until you need it. And that's the story with everything in my life, until you need it. Anyhow, that's kind of a little bit of insight as to what I'm working with here. Not a whole lot. I mean, this is just a small portion. But I am headed in that direction. We will get that bad boy going here. I am doing a little bit of work on the side, so it's going to take me a minute to get to it. But like I said, I'm going to try to use locally sourced materials. And in the end, I won't even have to bother to clean up because you won't even notice that I did it. Everything's real light, rusted on here anyways. I mean, this is, let's face it, I'm from Ohio originally, and this is nothing compared to what it would have looked like had this been in Ohio. So, anyhow, next time you see it, it should be either bare or begun painted. More to come.